Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for Stories from QuiC. And today we're joined by Julie Riley, co-founder of Depict Media. Welcome, Julie.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you are here. You're a Wichitan.
Yeah.
Just like me. So I thought, what better person to come down to the QuiC offices and try out our studio for the first time.
It's awesome. You guys have done so much great work.
Thank you. You were not born here in Wichita.
Nope. I moved here in 2006, so about 13 years now.
So you moved here in 2006, but where were you born?
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, but I was a military brat. So from Norfolk, Virginia, we went to Orlando, Florida, Minnesota, Eureka, California, Bermuda, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Maryland, Louisiana, Orlando, Florida, back to Louisiana, then here.
And I've heard you talk a lot about Louisiana.
Living in a suburb of New Orleans can be a lot of fun. You know, it's one of those where you just drive across Lake Pontchartrain, you're right there in the party city.
Yeah.
So it was awesome though. Lots of fishing, good eating, outdoors was just a big part of life down there. But lots of fun.
Where did you go to college somewhere in Louisiana?
I went to cosmetology school. I graduated from there and worked as a cosmetologist for about 3 years. I realized I hated it. I was miserable.
Yeah.
It was not what I was willing to do with the rest of my life. So I quit. I just started waiting tables, bartending, worked retail, was trying to find my path and my direction. Decided I should go to college. At that point in time, my parents did not think I should go to college, and they convinced me to go to Florida. So I went back to Orlando, Florida, and went to the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. So I learned to work on Harley Davidsons, tear them apart, rebuild them. It's about 1.5 years school, and graduated from there. And then I worked for Orlando Harley Davidson. I had a motorcycle though at the time, and I had always kind of just been very mechanically inclined, and it was something that seemed like the next thing to do because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up.
You went back to college.
I did.
And what did you study?
Well, that was once I moved here, and I was studying interior design, and was about probably a quarter to almost halfway through the program. And 2009, economy burst happened. Interior design is a luxury business. And I found that, and at the same time, I was starting a family. So I went ahead and put my focus on my family, stepped away from school for a little while. When it came time for me to look at going back, every single person that I had graduated the program, or that would have graduated with, there were only 2 actually working in the interior design field still.
Wow, so it sounds like you made a good choice.
Yeah, so I realized that was not where I should go and again invest some more money.
Yeah.
So I worked from home, stayed home for a while.
What did you do from home?
I started a cake business.
Did you use digital marketing to market your cake business?
Social media, Facebook, 100%. Facebook and Instagram. But that was before Instagram business pages. I didn't set up a separate Instagram account. I was still doing it all just under my own personal. Didn't have the knowledge at that time to say, hey, I should go set up a business one. Yeah. But that was at the very start of Facebook business pages. So I had set up a Facebook business page for my cakes and was marketing it all 100% through my Facebook page.
What kind of return did you see on that back then before Facebook became as saturated as it is today?
Oh my gosh, it was so easy to get people onto your page and to see your content, to interact with your content, to send. At that point, they didn't have Facebook, I don't think, messages directly through there, but people would comment and they had information that they could contact me and get their own cake. So it was so much easier. I didn't drop a single dime of advertising on that page.
So when I'm looking at, my Facebook memories, which I love, the earliest date that I can find is 2011.
I was on Facebook in 2008 is when I jumped on.
Wow.
So pretty much it was right after it became the college side and came over, because I think it was about 2007 that it came over to the public. And then so I jumped on in 2008.
Yeah.
So I was really resistant to give up MySpace.
But something really special happened on MySpace for you.
It did. I met my husband through MySpace.
So tell us about that, how you met him.
Yeah, so I had just moved to Kansas and was looking for just other people in the area. So this was, of course, before smartphones, before GPS on your phone, all of that. I rode a motorcycle, and I really wanted to just get to know the roads and find somebody else that I could go riding with versus being always on your busy highways or running into a dirt road that takes you down a cornfield and suddenly you're in the middle of nowhere and lost. So I hopped onto MySpace, and that was when you could still search for people by their location, their age, their sex, all of that. And I knew that my odds of finding a guy who rode were going to be way higher than a girl. I literally was just having to go off of pictures. So I stumbled across this guy that had a picture of him and his motorcycle in his profile picture. Sent him a message that said, "Hi, you don't know me. I promise I'm not some crazy chick, but I ride. I'm looking for somebody else who does ride to show me the roads. I'm new to the area." And he reached back out, and we got to know each other. We went riding together, got to know the roads, met his whole family, friends, and we just kicked it off from there. And that was Labor Day weekend of 2006.
Could you imagine if you had reached out to him today on Facebook the same way? What do you think his reaction would be?
Psycho. Absolutely psycho. Yeah. They'd have been like, delete. No, thank you. Block.
Okay, so that's like 2008. You got your cake business.
Yeah.
What's next for Julie Riley?
You know, so I did the cakes for quite a few years, and I loved doing them. They're a ton of fun. It's a creative outlet. They're just very artistic. However, they're exceptionally time-consuming, and I think a lot of people don't know the value of a cake. They don't understand the amount of time that goes into a custom cake. So that's when I stopped and started just focusing on being a mom for a while, taking classes back online, back to school again.
Yes.
And this time it was through Fort Hays State University. And then in 2015, I was hired by a local agency and was able to really jump in and get a good grasp of digital marketing and social media. And then in 2017, I left the agency and went out on my own and started Inspire Media.
That's
so I was
right.
not Depict Media at that time. I was Inspire Media.
That brings me to Jen, right? You can't talk about Julie without Jen.
I know. It's they kind of go hand in hand, it's awesome. It's so amazing. So Jen and I actually met in 2006. So the same year I met my husband, I met her. So at this same time that I became Inspire Media, Jen had her own business and was Backspace Media. We were working side by side on our individual businesses every single day, but we were constantly working together, but on individual companies.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking in the back of my head, I was like, this is just silly. You know, we have very different skill sets, which complement each other really well. And there's no reason why we should keep this separate. So I'd kind of plugged the idea of merging, and she wasn't really ready. It wasn't the right time for her. And I was like, that's fine. I'll just keep trucking along with what I'm doing. And I was building that. One of her clients had mentioned asking, you know, why don't you two just merge together? And in December of 2017, we decided to go ahead and make the merge. We were able to have everything turned around. That was the beginning of December. We had it all turned around and launched at the very beginning of January. So New Year's happened, and as soon as we got back together after New Year's, we launched.
So it's 2019. You're working for Social Media Examiner. You're co-founder of Depict Media. You're a speaker. What else are you doing these days?
You know, I think right now we're just really putting a focus on how we can grow and build Depict to the next level. We've added in some new services that we're working on getting the word out to our community about those new services. So we're excited for those and just excited to really tighten up what we've been doing at Depict in order to grow it and build it to the next level.
Thanks for sharing your story with us today.
Of course. I love getting to do that.
Awesome.